I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my Music Theory Tuition series where I work with you step by step through the ABRSM Discovering Music Theory grades. I'll work through every single exercise and explain everything you need to know. You can access information about the books I have available to help you on my website. Go to sharonbill.com. For advert-free and longer lessons, you can become a patron at patreon.com/SharonBill. If you can give me a like, that would be super, and please do subscribe to my channel to stay updated. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/SharonBill. We move on now to the practice exam paper at the end of the Grade 2 Discovering Music Theory workbook, and we start with the first section, which begins on page 50. So we're going to look at the question 1, which regards all topic of rhythm questions. And my advice to you would be just go for it and just answer all of the questions and just do your best and don't look up any answers at all. And even if you get some wrong as we work through them together, that's okay. It's much better to learn by your mistakes. And if you will just really kind of dig deep and work on as much recall as you possibly can, it's a much more active way of learning than just by passively looking up. And so always work in pencil, and then if something's wrong, well, you can rub it out later and change it, or you can just learn from your mistakes, and if it's wrong, well, that's how you'll learn for next time. So I'm hoping that you've had a go of this, and we're going to start by working through the answers in question 1, all things rhythm, starting on page 50. So we're asked to circle the correct time signature for each of these bars here. And so it's not just a matter of watching how many beats there are as such. We need to be careful how they're grouped, and that will show us exactly what our lowest number should be. And then when we've figured out what things are being grouped in, then we can choose the top number to say how many of these beats there are in each bar. And we can see here that we are being shown groups of crotchet beats because we know that 4 semiquavers equal a crotchet beat, because 1 crotchet divides into 2 quavers, which is 4 semiquavers. And here again we can see a crotchet beat, because if I just diagram this out, we can see there's a crotchet beat. We'll divide it into quarters. That's like showing each semiquaver beat. A quaver is half of a crotchet beat, and then the dot gives us as much again, half as much again. So we have 3/4 of a crotchet beat, and then the final quarter is there in the semiquaver. So we've got a crotchet beat, and a crotchet beat. So we can see that our bottom number is 4, and we've got 1, 2, 3 crotchet beats per bar. And so that gives us the answer there. So do work the answer out first. Don't just get confused by the multiple choice options. Find the answer, and then you can just quickly select the one that is correct. Now here we can see that we've got minim groups. There's a minim. Half as much again is a crotchet with this next crotchet. So we can see we've got groups of minim beats. There's too many to count in crotchet beats. So we've got minim beats, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 minim beats. So the time signature will be 4/2, and we can see this here. Now here we could be counting in minim beats, or we could be counting in crotchet beats. Let's see what we've got here. So we know that 4 semiquavers is a crotchet. So we could be looking for 1, 2, 3, 4 crotchet beats per bar. That's not an option, but we can see there's 1 minim beat, there's another minim beat, 2/2. is our option there. Let's move on to the second part of this section. Now here they've done the thinking for us. We've got the time signature, we just need to add a missing bar line. And you'll notice that each of these finishes on a complete bar. And so if we get a little bit lost counting from the start, we can always just double check and count backwards. So we should have 2 beats per bar, and each beat will be a crotchet. So we need to show 2 crotchet beats per bar. So we've got 1 crotchet here, half a beat and half a beat gives us our second crotchet, and so the bar line will be here. Let's just double check, and so if we divide this, I find this easy to diagram out. There's our crotchet, half of a beat, there's a quaver, that's half of a crotchet beat, and then semi-quaver, semi-quaver gives us the next crotchet, 1, 2, that's correct. Now we need 3 beats per bar, and each beat is going to be a minim, so we need 3 minim beats per bar. There's 1 minim beat, that's a crotchet rest, so a crotchet and a crotchet gives us a minim. There's another minim, 1, 2, 3, that will be our bar line. Let's just make sure that this is correct. Counting backwards, there's 1 minim beat, crotchet plus crotchet gives us a minim. Now 2 quavers is a crotchet, 2 quavers is a crotchet, and 2 crotchets is a minim. So I'm always sort of looking how these divide, because we know these divisions, 2 minims equals a semi-breve, 2 crotchets is a minim, and then we can just keep dividing it. So you can see how I'm doing the maths, just dividing each time and then grouping things accordingly. Now we should have 3 beats in a bar, and each beat should be worth a crotchet. So here we have 1 crotchet, half of a crotchet is a quaver, and quaver plus quaver, so the dot in this next quaver gives us the next crotchet beat. There's a crotchet, so there's our 1, 2, 3. Let's just double check. So don't let this triplet sign confuse you, that just literally means 3 in the time of 2, 3 semiquavers in the time of 2, which is worth 1 quaver. We have a crotchet here, we have a crotchet here. This is 1 quaver, and then half of a crotchet is a quaver, and there's our 1, 2, 3 beats averaged out. Let's continue. So now we should have 4 crotchet beats per bar. So again, don't be confused by a triplet sign. There's 1 crotchet beat, 3 quavers in the time of 2 quavers. That's what your triplet sign does. And we know that 2 quavers is 1 crotchet. 2 quavers is 1 crotchet. There's another crotchet, not counting the dot. Half of a crotchet is a quaver, that's that dot. With this next quaver gives us another crotchet beat. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's double check that we're correct. So we know that, let's just diagram this out. There's our crotchet beat. A quaver is half of a crotchet. The dot is half as much again. So that's 3/4 of a crochet beat, and there's our final quarter. So that's 1 crochet beat, 2 crochet beats, 3, 4, that's correct. And then finally we have 3 beats per bar, and each beat is a quaver. Now we know that 2 semiquavers is the equivalent to 1 quaver. There's a quaver, there's a quaver, so 1, 2, 3, bar line. There's a quaver, and then 1 crotchet is worth 2 quaver beats. 1, 2, 3, that's correct. Let's move on to the third part of this section. So we need to tick one box to answer each of these questions. How many semiquavers are there in a dotted crotchet. So let's think about this. A crotchet divides into 2 quavers, which will divide again into 4 semiquavers, and then so we've got 4 semiquavers, but then a dot is half as much again, so half of 4 is 2, and so that will mean 6 semiquavers, because we can see there our dot is worth another quaver, which divides into 2 semiquavers. So the answer should be 6. How many quavers are there in a semibreve? Well, we'd already started working on this, but let's start it again. We'd already kind of done the thinking, but let's do it again. It's good to have extra revision. So 1 semibreve divides into 2 crotchets. Oh, sorry, 2 minims, dearie me, which divides into 4 crotchets, which divides, doubling up again, into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quavers. And of course you can do the maths as well. We know that we're doubling each time, so we've got 1 semibreve, 2, 4, 8. There we go. Let's move on to page 51 for the rest of this section. So we're continuing with section 1, rhythm, and the 4th part of this asks us to tick which one of these is properly grouped. Now remember, we should always group to show each unit beat, so we should beam to show each crotchet beat here. Well, we know that's half of a crotchet beat. That makes 3/4, because if I just diagram that out, a quaver is half of a crotchet beat. Half as much again is a quarter, so there's 3/4, and then we should have 1 more quarter to finish that crochet beat, so they should not be beamed together there. So here this one looks correct because we've got 3/4 of a beat and 1/4 of a beat, and then we know that 4 semiquavers equals 1 crochet, so that's the correct one. Let's see, why is this one wrong? So there's our 3/4 and 1/4, and then we've got this one odd semiquaver which should be beamed here to show our final beat, so that's the correct one. Now then, we need to show in this next exercise where the rests are correct or incorrect, and remember, every new beat requires a new rest, and so we should have 3 quaver beats clearly shown. So there's 1 quaver beat, 2 quaver beats, 3 quaver beats. Correct, that is 1 quaver beat. Now here, although this is correct in terms of the notice, the bar is fully complete, that is not showing each new beat as a new rest. So there's beat 1, that should then be split to show beat 2, beat 3. Each new beat requires a new rest, so that's incorrect. However, this is correct because although that seems like it's the wrong rest, that's a semi-brief rest, that is also the shortcut way of a full bar's rest regardless of how many beats there are per bar, and so that's correct. And now finally we're looking at this piece of music here. So now, which of these bars below is correctly written showing notes of half the value? And our time signature has got to reflect that as well. So let's see what we've got here. There are 3 beats per bar, and so this should have 3 beats per bar to stay in triple time. At the moment we are counting 3 minim beats per bar, and each to show in half, we've got to go 3 beats per bar, but now we've got to show 3 crochet beats per bar. So our time signature should be 3/4. But before we get sidetracked looking at the answers, let's figure out what this should look like. So halving we should have now a dotted crotchet, not a dotted minim. Then we should have 2 semiquavers, and then we should have a crotchet. So we should have dotted crotchet, 2 semiquavers, crotchet. So which one of those is correct? And it's this one. That one has got too many beats in the bar. It's not correct. And this one, this is too long. It should be a crotchet, and it's a minim. So that's that first section completed. I hope this is helpful to your studies. Please do like and subscribe to stay updated. If you'd like to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee, and for advert-free lessons, you can become a patron. Do visit my website where you'll find many resources available to help you. Visit sharonbill.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.